Any questions there? Yeah. Do you want to?
Well, the Sunset Committee has recommended that Board of Examiners, Polygraph Board of Examiners be continued until 2027. I'd ask for a favorable report. Be glad to field any questions on any of these.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion on those? So move. We have Senator Sessions made the motion, and Senator Hovey was second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? And I assume that's with 13-0 vote. HB 202 passes. We're going to HB 204. Representative Pringle. This is Sunset Law for Alabama Construction Recruitment Institute. Senator Barfoot, you have the floor.
Thank you. The Sunset Committee recommended that this particular board or commission be continued until 2026.
What is the pleasure of the committee? We have a motion, Senator Carnley, and we have a second from Senator Weaver. All in favor of using previous role without objection, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That also carries. HB 204 passes, 13-0 vote. Next is HB 206, which is from Representative Rafferty, Alabama Athlete Agents Commission. Senator Barfoot.
Thank you. Sunset Committee recommended that this commission be continued until 2027.
What is the pleasure of the committee? We have a motion, Senator. We have a second. All in favor of using previous role without objection, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That also is carried. Next on the agenda, I believe we have an amendment coming up, but we'll start off with HB 194, Representative Simpson, which is the Sunset Law for Alabama On-Site Wastewater Board. Senator Barfoot.
Again, the Sunset Committee's recommendation to this committee is that board be continued until 2027.
I believe the committee has an amendment to take that down to a 1 year to keep that kind of under the eyes of this committee and the Sunset Committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I know you told me that as you were walking in, but it's never been my experience before that we did an amendment like that to what the Sunset Committee said. So did the Sunset Committee get back together and approve this amendment or say this? Because they go into what we call the business session to discuss why we give them the extensions that we do. So I'm questioning why is this being reconsidered, if you will.
I'll be more than happy to answer that. We have extensively looked at each one of these boards as they've come through. We have not done an overview of all of these commissions and boards, which are approximately 151 of them. And we have been kind of tasked also, if the bills, sunset bills, come through this committee, to look at that, just like the governor said at the State of the State, and being our part of doing that. This particular one, I didn't want to get into details, but there's been 4 findings that we've got on their examination report, and significant findings, and so we wanted to make sure that gets back down to 0. So we're going from 4 years down to 1 is the way we'd like to do that.
But if you all are going to do that, then what's the point of the Sunset Committee meeting through the year to do this?
The Sunset's still in charge. It's just the bills have to be passed as far as the statute through Fred, so it goes back to the Sunset to get onto the floor. Because there's got to be bills that come back through.
If I
Senator Barfoot,
maybe chime in. So Senator Figures has been on the Sunset Committee a long time, and I don't know.
I just don't recall this being happening. It's almost like it's somebody else that's reviewing the audit report and everything and then changing it in that regard.
It might be different chairmen of the Sunset Committee too.
Well, let me say this. I think procedurally, I don't know historically how often this has been done. You would have a better idea about that than I would.
Yeah, I just say I don't recall.
Yeah, and I don't either. I will say, I think procedurally, I see the Sunset Committee as the more of the worker bee, right? We do the work. We have the committee meetings where we have folks that come in and tell us, what the findings are. There's been lots of work. You've been a part of that for years during the summertime, and we make recommendations. I think, to your point, maybe historically that hasn't changed that often. I have seen some of that, at least since I've been up here, a sunset or something changed from the Sunset Committee, at least on the floor. I'm not sure in committee.
But I'm not sure about the time point in terms of what they're given before their next audit. And this is being taken from
A 4-year down to a 1-year.
down to 1 year. That's pretty significant. So I guess I'm curious to know what actually happened that the Sunset Committee missed, I guess.
And I think that's if I can,
Please.
Chairman, I think that's a great point. I think as co-chair of the Sunset Committee, and I'm sure the members as well, look for guidance as to maybe what we missed or what we need to have a sharper eye on so that our recommendations are, y'all have faith and confidence in the Sunset Committee. And so to that extent, depending on what this committee does, I'd ask for guidance about what we need to look at if we're not looking at something that we should have looked at.
I would be more than happy to bring the findings back to you and obviously sit down with you to go over those. As these bills come through, I know that we have the authority to make these amendments that we did today because we've checked, and going forward and making a substitute if we need to. So we'd have the authority to go forward. We haven't done this in the past, Senator Figures. To answer your question, I just think it's a new day on boards and commissions as we go forward. That's all. So any further discussion? Having none, we have the amendment on the table. Is there a motion to approve the amendment? So we have so moved. Do we have a second? Second with Senator Roberts. Do we have any further discussion?
Question?
Yes, sir.
Chairman, not really on the amendment or anything, but on-site wastewater board, what, I understand concept, but this board, they basically oversee the on-site wastewaters of like subdivisions?
Mainly septic tanks or something. Can I get Rachel Riddle, if she's in the house, that she can come up for findings?
But I was kind of curious as to,
The definition of the on-site wastewater board.
yeah, of who they basically oversee or what their function is.
They were created to examine, license, and regulate persons engaged in the manufacturing, installation, and servicing of on-site sewage systems in the state.
Okay, so they actually inspect the manufacturers of these on-site systems.
And installation
And the installation.
and servicing of it.
And they also making sure they're operating properly, or does that fall to ADM and testing afterwards? That has nothing to do with this board.
No, I think that this is more, and that's getting a little bit out of my wheelhouse. This is more about the actual people that do it and make sure that they're licensed to be able to do it properly. And then I'm assuming ADM has some sort of part in that later down the road especially the bigger public sewer systems. But they have 6 types of licensees: the installer, the pumper, portable restroom, and the manufacturers of sewage systems.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Senator Sessions. Senator Figures.
I think in all fairness to this committee, before we vote on this amendment, we need to know why whoever it is that's suggesting that it goes from 4 to 1, that would be told those reasons. I mean, I don't remember this board, but
Would you like to go through each one of the findings as we go through the report and bring?
yeah, I'd like to know why we're taking them from 4 to 1. And, because I'm going to be asked to be taken off of the Sunset Committee.
Okay.
Because if it's going to be asked to do all that work and then it be second-guessed by somebody else once it gets here to be passed, one way or the other, and because you're changing several, I don't have that kind of time to waste. Number one. But the other thing is I think this committee needs to know what it's voting on and why it's going from 4, because to me that's pretty significant. When we put somebody on a 1-year thing, that means it's a whole lot going on with that board that they need to get their act together, and we're giving them a year to do it. Then we go back and see if they've straightened it out.
I would like to be able to put something together for you as a report and bring that to you with the examiner's office instead of hashing every one of these out. Some of these have 14 findings. And
But
so
you're not-
each
but
one of
you're
these are
not-
going to be an hour, and I just don't think that we're going to have enough time to go through each and every one of these. And as our goal is to make these boards as efficient as possible. And I think that in lack of time today, I'll be more than happy to bring that full report to you so before they hit the floor, that we can go through those together and make sure that you have everything answered that you need to. But having each one of these brought out, you have 18, 20, 24. You have 30 different findings that we'll have to go through today, and each one of those are going to take
How
time.
could the Sunset Committee have missed all that?
I'm doing my job here. That's all I'm doing.
How did the Sunset Committee miss this as a co-chair?
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Please.
Maybe address, first of all, I'd ask for you not to come off the Sunset Committee. You've got experience that a lot of us don't have, so that's a side note to that. But I agree. I think we knew that there were findings in some of these, and I think, again.
Because I didn't make the business meeting, I do know that.
But I think there are findings in other committees, commissions, or agencies, and in the Sunset Committee, we obviously didn't believe that they rose to the level to do something other than what we suggested. So, in other words, we knew there were findings. This is not,
Yeah.
that's not new, but
Yeah.
we didn't think, Sunset Committee thought that they weren't as bad to warrant anything other than what we recommended, and we recommended a 4-year
Right.
turnover for them.
And I guess that's my problem with it, is you have this committee that's doing this, they make the decisions based on their experience. But I won't go any further and delay this. I will just vote my conscience on each one.
Understand. Thank you, Senator Figures. And if I need to bring a report to you, Senator Figures, I'll be more than happy to do that so we can sit and talk.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Oh, definitely will. Okay. Thank you for your experience and knowledge there. We have a motion. We have a second for that. We're voting on the amendment for HB 194. All in favor? Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Senator Butler? Senator Carnley? Senator Chastain? Senator Coleman? Aye, with reservation. Senator Figures?
No.
Senator Gavan? Senator Hatcher?
I don't know what I'm voting on. Oh, it's the amendment, but I don't know what that entails.
Taking it 4 years
That's
down
why
to
I'm
1
voting
year.
no, that's all.
Okay, but just to be clear, this is voting on the amendment, taking it from 4 years down to 1 year.
That's right.
Thank you.
Senator Hatcher?
We're voting on the amendment right now. Yeah, abstain, that's fine.
Senator Hovey? Senator Kelly? Senator Melson?
He's gone.
Senator Roberts? Senator Sessions?
Aye.
Senator Weaver? Senator Gutcher? 8 to 3 to 1.
8 to 3 to 1. The amendment is approved. Next will be on the bill, HB 194, as amended. What's the pleasure of the committee? Move a favorable report for Senator Gavan. We have a second from Senator Weaver. Can we use the same roll call using?
I'll vote aye to get it out of committee.
You will? Okay.
If you could change my no vote from the last roll to aye to get it out of committee, because that's what we're voting on here.
Let's do a roll call vote on that just to be on the safe side. Thank you, Senator Figures.
Senator Butler? Senator Carnley? Senator Chastain? Senator Coleman? Senator Figures?
Aye.
Senator Gavan? Senator Hatcher? Senator Hovey? Senator Kelly? Senator Melson? Senator Roberts? Senator Sessions?
Aye.
Senator Weaver? And Senator Gutcher.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
11 to 1.
That goes 11 yeas, 1 nay, so that also passes HB 194. Senator Figures.
I just
on the
wanted to
floor.
clarify, too, that if these bills don't get to the floor for us to pass them on a certain day of the session, these boards will die.
Exactly.
So
We have 5 days to
that's
get
why
them
I'm
through.
voting to get it out, and then I'll work out my differences later.
Thank you for that. We've been asked to get these all of these through today. That's why we're having our second meeting of the week and then getting those back out onto the floor. But we have 5 days to get those to the floor and passed.
Right.
Thank you for that. All right, so we're finished with HB 194. Next is HB 195, Representative Simpson, which is the Alabama Real Estate Commission. Senator Barfoot, you have the floor.
So Sunset Committee, I'd say recommendation. The recommendation is until 2024. And I think that puts them back on the original cycle. And I believe that wasn't a 1 year set off, but rather mandatory that we put them back on the original cycle. Is that
Correct.
I believe that's
Yeah.
correct.
So using your recommendation, then what's the pleasure of the council? Move for favorable, Senator Gavan. We have a second, Senator Weaver. Any further discussion? Is it okay if we use previous roll? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes 11-1. I didn't see you. I apologize. All right. Next is we have HB 196, Representative Sampson. This is going to be the sunset law for the Alabama Professional Bail Bonding Board. Senator Barfoot, and I think there's an amendment also doing the same thing. So we'll know that was a 2-year, and we're trying to bring that down to a 1 year to keep our eyes focused on them for 1 more year. So we have an amendment.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the recommendation of the Sunset Committee was that they be set off for 2 years and ending in October of 2025.
So we'll bring up the amendment first. Do we have a motion to approve the amendment, taking them from the 2 years down to 1 year? So move, Senator Weaver. And then the second, Senator Gavan. We'll use a roll call so we can take maybe Senator Hovey back off. It depends. Okay, so roll
I need
call
the
vote,
long
please.
roll.
We are. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Senator.
Senator Butler, Senator Carnley, Senator Chasteen, Senator Coleman, Senator Figurs,
No.
Senator Gavan, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Melson, Senator Roberts, Senator Sessions,
Aye.
Senator Weaver, Senator Gutcher.
Aye.
11-1.
The amendment passes 11-1. And next will be have the bill HB 196 as amended. What is the pleasure of this committee? Move for favorable, Senator Chasteen and Senator Weaver seconded. Any further discussion? Having none, using previous roll, is that okay with everyone? Object, long roll. Long roll. Can we just add you?
Let it be clear, I'm voting no on every amendment, but I will vote yes to get it out of committee for a favorable report.
Say that again?
Yeah.
So let's do that, if that's all right. We'll just make that notion every time, and as we use previous roll, making sure that we are assured that Senator Figurs has the no vote on the amendments, but
On
yes to
every
get it to the
amendment.
floor.
Yes.
Sounds great. If anyone else changes that, let us know. That would be 12-0 vote if that bill passing. Next is HB 197, Representative Shedd, Sunset Law on Alabama State Board of Occupational Therapy. I believe we've taken the recommendation of the Sunset Committee on this. Senator, move for favorable. Senator Gavan, second. Senator Roberts. Any further discussion? There's no amendment, so I assume that it passes without objection, 12-0. Next is HB 193, Representative Simpson. This is a Sunset Law State Licensing Board for General Contractors. And we would be taking, that's already a 1 year, but we had our colleague bring an amendment that should be in front of you, Senator Orr, and had an issue with that, and his amendment addresses that, which has to deal with grass cutting, which was in that amendment. Move for favorable, Senator Roberts. Second, Senator Gavan. Any further discussion on that? And we're using the recommendation time period, which is a 1 year on that also, Senator Barfoot, is that correct?
That is true. That was the Sunset's recommendation on that particular board, is to sunset them in 2024.
Okay, thank you. So we are voting on the amendment, and if it is amendment, Senator Figurs, I believe, is a no, and if we can use previous,
What is the amendment year?
what is the amendment?
Year.
Yes, it should be on there, and it's not changing the time like we have on the others. It's having to deal with grass cutting and shrub removal, which is underneath their licensing. And there was a gentleman trying to get some grass cut in Decatur. He had to go through Montgomery to get a permit just to cut grass for some of the municipalities. I believe his amendment is changing that.
So is this just the amendment, not changing
This
the
is just
year, but
not
it's just
changing the year.
changing
We did the
that?
recommended year on this one.
I'll vote for that.
Sounds great. So if that's the case, anyone else have further discussion? Having not, that should be a 12-0 vote also. Is that correct? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Without,
I didn't want to hold up the amendment, but I did want a little bit more explanation on it, because when I'm thinking about grass cutting, I mean, we've had grass cutting contracts in Jefferson County that are, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I just wanted to understand that amendment a little bit better.
Can we get Senator Orr to come up, and he's not here at this particular moment, but if he can talk to you before it hits the floor? That works. That sounds great. I'll make sure that happens. Clerk, would you please make a note for that to remind me? All right, so we just voted on the amendment, is that correct? Yes, and now we have the bill HB 193 as amended. What's the pleasure of the committee? Move for favorable, Senator Carnley. Second, Senator Weaver. Any further discussion? This is moving it to the floor, so I think we're all in unanimous consent, 12-0 on that particular bill, so that passes. Moving to HB 199, which is a sunset law for Alabama Security Regulatory Board. This has an amendment on here from a 4-year also down to a 1-year. I'd like to deal with the amendment first. Is there any discussion? Move for favorable. Do we have a second? But this is the amendment, yeah. Have a second, Senator Chastain. And so this is on the amendment. If we can use previous roll, that would make us 11-1.
This is the amendment to
This is the
change the
amendment.
year.
That is correct. So this is the amendment, so it would be 11-1 with Senator Figures as of no vote. Next, we will be picking up that bill as amended, HB 199. This is on the bill as amended. What is the pleasure of the committee? Move favorable report, Senator Chastain, Senator Weaver, second. Using using long roll, we're going to be a 12-0 vote. Senator Figures, is that correct? You're okay taking this to the floor? Okay, 12-0 vote. That bill passes as amended. Next is HB 205. You're also going to have, this is Alabama Athletic Commission. This was a 4-year, and we have an amendment taking it down to 1 year also. And this is, need to be on the amendment first. Any discussion on that before we make a motion? We have so moved from Senator Gavan. We have a second. We have a second. Senator Roberts. Any discussion? Using our previous roll -1, so we have 11-1 vote on that. That is amended. Now we're on that particular bill, HB 205, the bill as amended. Taking that down, what is the pleasure of the committee? Favorable report, Senator Chastain. Second, Senator Sessions. Using previous rolls with a full vote unanimous, 12-0, since it's taking that to the floor.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just, I guess, a technical point of order from my part.
Yes, sir.
I think I mentioned on a couple of these that the Sunset Committee voted to sunset them on a date specific, whatever that date was. That's not technically correct. We actually voted to extend them for review for potential sunset. So I just want to clarify that as a technical correction.
Thank you. Well said. All right, at the end, there are a few people that would like to speak on this particular bill, and I'd like for them to be able to do that. This is HB 192. This particular bill is going to have a sub in front of you, if you want to look at that. And Senator Barfoot, is there anything you'd like to say before I have them come up?
Well, I don't know what the sub says. I know has been some discussion about that. Certainly you're the chairman, and however you want to conduct it, I'll be glad to step aside and let them make comments, whoever you have, and then maybe address, if needed, any questions.
Thank you for that. And so to begin with, I'd like for Keith Warren, I'd like to come up. I'm going to give whoever would like to talk 3 minutes. And Keith, would you like to come forward at this time, please, sir? Just for the sake of time, we put 3 minutes on here. When the buzzer goes off, obviously we'll go from there. I think you and I have had some discussions on our particular, we put 3 minutes on here is when he starts, but had some questions about the massage therapist board. I'd like for you just to tell the committee kind of who you are, what you do, and anything you would like to talk about on the massage therapy, please, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Gudger and members of the committee. I'm Keith Warren. I'm the director of the Massage Therapy Board. It is one of 15 that I manage out of my office at Smith Warren. This board has been in existence since 1996 and regulates massage therapists, massage establishments, schools, and instructors. We did go through sunset last year. We had 2 findings. One regarding board terms, and there was a long period of time where there were no appointments made to this board. Governor Ivey and their wonderful staff came in and made appointments. There was one that it continues to serve, but he only did receive 2 official appointments to the board. And then the other one had to do with the depleting fund. And in 2022, we had significant legislation allowing us to raise the caps on fees, which we had not been able to do in the history of the board. And we just went through that rule promulgation, and we had some others to do. So we battle in our profession that with this board and regulating it, that a lot of people hide behind massage therapy and illicit practices that should not be allowed. And that is a lot of our disciplinary and enforcement actions on complaints that we receive from the public. We also have an inspection arm. Each establishment is to be inspected annually by the board, and we do that, and there are some disciplinary matters that come through the investigative committee through the investigative process. I know there has been a lot of controversy over that legislation. We're here to work with you in any way, how we can operate more efficiently. Any ideas that you have constituents, we have constituents, and we're here to work together. So we have an open door policy. Come to us at any time. I have not always had that opportunity to get any return communication for those reaching out for questions, but I'm here. I think I shared my contact information with you and several of you on the committee. So we're here to serve you. We work for you. We are a legislative body and created by the legislature. So please contact me at any time. We'll be glad to answer any questions and work with you in any way.
Is there any questions from the committee at all? I want to say thank you for coming in today and us having a conversation. I appreciate that earlier. And so thanks for just giving me the information and at the same time your contact so that we're able to get in direct communication if we need to.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else? We have one question. Senator Coleman?
It's just maybe just a brief, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for connecting with me prior to let me know about the sub. But if you could just give me just a little brief something about, what is the difference between the original bill and the sub? So, because what happens for me when I come in, my assistant puts together all of my bills. I take those things back to the hotel. And unless the sub is emailed to me, I haven't had an opportunity to look at it. So I'm just asking to just give me just a little bit of what the sub is about.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely do that. Let's go through this at the time, of course. Changes sunset review to a 1-year extension, and instead of where it was, and I apologize, I don't have my sheet right here, instead of a 4-year, it removes duplicate language in the reading for overnight lodging, which is see lines 414 and 432. It changes up part of the board of representation from the congressional districts to achieve the geographic diversity. Requires requests to record board meetings if given 24 hours notice, just the Open Meetings Act. It removes ability to delegate licensing just to one person but to the board. It also requires future fee changes to be done pursuant to the administrative rule that they have on there. So someone just can't change the fees themselves, and it goes back to the board. Those are some of the few. I can give you more if you want to, and I'll give you this sheet. That's why we're doing this process. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, sir. Senator Hatcher.
Keith, I guess I have one question. You said there are some things that massage therapists do they shouldn't do. Well, what are some of those things? No, don't answer that question.
Well, I don't think I've ever turned red that quick, ever before. Senator Gudger, I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
About the promulgation of rules and fees and
Mr.
all
Warren,
that.
please,
And that was done pursuant to the Alabama Administrative Procedures Act and was submitted through LSA. And was certified accordingly. So that was not done outside of my authority or the board's authority. It was done within the promulgation of the Administrative Procedures Act.
I'll do this. Thank you for telling me that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Christy Williams. If you'd like to come forward. Same information. You've got 3 minutes if you'd like to talk. You're more than welcome to. Clerk, would you start when she starts to make sure it's fair for everyone? And thank you for being here. I know you drove a long way.
I did. Arley is a long way from here.
That's right.
All right. So I'm a massage therapist, obviously. I have been a massage therapist in the state since 2011. For 27 years, the Massage Therapy Board has been contracted with Keith Warren to serve as our executive director. Until January of this year, Mr. Warren had created a unique contract that didn't require government oversight, and it lacked accountability. Since lawmakers like you have been blinded by these actions until now, I figured it was time to give you just a little bit of legislative history for the Massage Board. Currently, Mr. Warren receives $1.7 million between all of the contracted boards that he has, right? With our board, he receives 60% of the board revenue for his company. On some of these boards, it's up to 90%. While salaried executive directors receive 3 and 11% of those funds. Under his direction, we are now in our 22nd year of board composition violations, according to these sunset reviews. For 15 years, Mr. Warren approved massage schools that violated statute and awarded 3,110 massage licenses to graduates from these schools. He ignored this regulation. It was in the reviews, but he doubled his contract using the licensing fees. The first law passed in 2000 under his authority removed legislative training requirements for the board members. This law also lessened the quorum requirement because he was cited for this violation in 2001 and told to rescind the items that violated constitutional law, but he didn't. For 22 years, he violated administrative procedures, legislative policy, regulatory compliance. He manipulated contract oversight and increased his income by $100,000. In 2006, he attempted to remove the oath of office sworn by the board members. From 2009 to 2021, he attempted to raise fees, triple fines, and give himself excessive control. But it wasn't till last year until he decided to lump us in with sex trafficking, and that's when this succeeded. This success came without posting minutes for 2 years. From 2020 until 2022, we didn't see the first minute. He falsified those LSA forms by marking no, that these fee increases would not have an economic impact. There has been questionable board meetings, unprofessional responses to anyone who questions him. And without these fines and penalties, Mr. Warren would receive more than 56% of our board. Mr. Warren claims that sex trafficking is the driving force for all of these law changes and all of these increases. However, the two investigators that investigate our industry, they're not mandated to report to law enforcement.
That's your time.
Okay.
All right. And I assume my question to you, I assume you have data to back up what
Absolutely.
you're saying today. Is that correct?
All in the, every single review all the way back to 1996.
All right, Senator Figures.
I have a question. Isn't it customary for the board to vote for who they want to run their?
Yes.
So how long have you all known about all of these infractions and did not replace him?
Can I answer honestly?
Yeah, you're not on the board, correct?
No, I'm not on the board.
But you can answer her question, please.
Okay, so you're more than welcome to go back to the meeting minutes, starting all the way that only shows on the board website. I tried to get them from archives, but I can't get them because 2005 is as far back as it goes, I believe. The only record that we have to where these things continue is he'll say that they didn't bid for a contract or there wasn't a bid for this contract. But the truth is that Mr. Warren's contracts were never really in the bid realm. They were created as, they weren't professional contracts. They were not professional service contracts.
Okay, now, I don't think you can answer the question since you're not on the board.
Okay.
But having been on Sunset for all these years, there have been many things that have come from the boards that Mr. Warren was over. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Any further discussion or any other questions to our guest? Having none, thank you. I appreciate you coming today.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I don't have an amendment on this. I actually have a sub on this to correct some of the things that we just heard. And so what is the motion? We move for favorable, Senator Roberts. Move favor, to adopt a sub. And Senator Roberts, that's still your motion, is that correct? Do we have a second? Second at Senator Chastain. All in favor of taking that to the floor, I assume we're a 12-0 vote on that. Senator Figures, you're okay taking that vote to the floor, is that correct? 12-0 vote? Or do you? That's where adopting the sub. Yeah, this is for adopting the sub.
The substitute.
It should be in front of you. The last packet.
This is it?
Ms. Chairman, while the senator is looking, I guess I was wondering if the gentleman was gonna defend himself.
No, this is not the place, Senator.
Okay, I
We
just
could go
wanted.
on and on and on, so I would,
Well, I mean, I'm different than you then, because if I heard all of that said about me in a public setting, I would respond to it.
right, but we can't do
That's
anything
what I
about
would
it.
do.
Back and forth. I'd agree with Senator Figures right now. All right, so we have a motion to adopt. We have a second. All in favor of adopting, please say aye. All opposed? So that's a 12-0 vote. Now we can actually vote on the particular bill, which is move for favorable. We have a second, Senator Weaver. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? That's also a 12-0 vote. Thank you for your patience, Senator Barfoot. Anything else from you, sir?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just reiterate what I said during the first part of the meeting, to the extent that there are things that this committee believes that the Sunsets Committee should be looking at with a different eye or in a different light, I would appreciate the feedback. I know other members, Senator Figures, would as well. So just to the extent that we can do the work during the summertime that we need to do, I would appreciate that input.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Senator Barfoot. Besides that, we're adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
I don't want to go back and forth. Yeah, yeah.